Art of Happiness. My name is Tam, joined by my lovely co-host, Erin Tam.
Hey.
And I sent you an article recently that I found called Do We Need Hobbies? And it's from an author named Joshua Rothman in The New Yorker. And it really just kind of touches on a lot of the things that we usually talk about, but there was some interesting little nuances about it.
Absolutely.
What did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was really, really interesting. You know, it's a lot of things, like you said, a lot of things we talk about, but basically coming down to do we actually need hobbies, and like in the modern life, how do we make that happen, and what are the benefits of hobbies, right? So I think that life now, let's take a step back. Historically, a long time ago, hobbies were more for leisure time. Maybe people had a lot more leisure time. Might have been a little bit of a luxury too for the, and they I would argue that they probably still are a luxury, but they shouldn't be.
Agreed.
Right? And talking about just that, what hobbies are, a lot of things we've talked about, which you can go back on a lot of our episodes, we talk about this, but how hobbies are a deeply personal thing and something that are done for enjoyment. Oh, yeah. And not just for survival, but or for income or productivity, but just something that gives back to yourself.
Right.
And not necessarily something you need to share with anybody else or not. He had
this
one, I guess, phrase he came up with was called the I ratio.
I saw that too, yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. Like, I'd never heard that concept. He called it the I don't even know if I can...
interesting ratio?
Interestingness ratio.
Interestingness ratio, yes.
Yeah, and so that hobbies, part of the issue now in modern society is that, we're so... We all are about the hustle, about working, being productive, and showing everybody that we're being productive. And hobbies kind of have a low ratio of the I cannot say that word.
It's okay. So
being interesting. I'm just going to say that.
Being interesting. Well, it's really good because when he spells it out, it's like the interestingness ratio is basically a 1-for-1 ratio, right?
Right.
Is a best case scenario is a 1-to-1 ratio of the person talking and the person listening are both very engaged and excited about the conversation, right?
Yeah.
Hence,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. And obviously for us, we are very interested in hobbies.
Yes.
But when you do something like that's a hobby you truly picked for yourself, the other person might not find it very interesting. And so that can be challenging if, you don't get that, positive feedback from another person.
Like he was just saying that doing the hobby talk, typically hobbies fall kind of below the 1-to-1 ratio in the interestingness ratio, because usually a hobby, like you said, is very personal. It's very interesting to you and not necessarily interesting to the general population, which I thought was really funny because, for us, I don't feel like that applies. I feel like we and you are very 1-to-1 here, but I also feel like our audience is on that 1-to-1 ratio. If you're looking for a hobby podcast to listen to, you don't feel that hobbies fall below that 1-to-1 ratio. So I'm going to debunk that one right here, right now.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it's trying to remember that when you are picking a hobby, that it doesn't matter if anybody else finds it interesting. It is really cool when you find other people that like the things that you do. But we found, tried and true, that when you find a hobby you truly like, it just really brings out a lot of curiosity, a lot of fun and play in life, something you don't really get from other things in life, right?
Yeah. And I really thought what was interesting is he kind of took us back in time a little bit in the article, because he talks about how how hobbies, like you said, used to be kind of like this luxury thing. But let's take, for instance, he said it was planes, model plane making. I thought it was so fascinating. We talked about how they used to be made of this, a basil wood type of material. And that was the go-to tool for making those planes. Well, then as time progressed, they actually found that this particular type of wood was really helpful in things like surfboards or wind turbines, giant wind turbines. So now this wood that really didn't have a whole lot of value and was just kind of used just to make really just a collector's item, now is incredibly expensive and kind of, I don't know if I want to say difficult to find, but just a little less out of the range of, just somebody who just wants to casually do paper or model planes. And so now model planes, that hobby has kind of transitioned through time, where it used to be wood, now it's more plastic. And so the value of a wooden plane made out of that particular wood now has like more value than the plastic planes, right? And how it's like now even that hobby now has even more of a niche built into it, because it's like, are you the wood model making or are you the plastic model making?
Yeah.
It's just, I thought that was really interesting how it showed the dynamic of time. It also showed the dynamic of just like the shift of the world of like how sometimes hobbies are not so much like I am not interested in that hobby. It's more I can't afford to be interested in that hobby, right?
Absolutely.
And that's like a perfect example of like showing how there could be interest, but there could also be some barriers to being able to get into that interest. I thought that was a really
that is
point.
a really good point, because I think back to that hobbies can be considered almost a luxury to have the time to do it and the money to do it. But I think we're here to talk about how you can definitely lower that barrier to entry by finding things that don't cost money. There's tons of hobbies that don't cost any money, and there's a lot of hobbies that don't take a lot of time. For a long time, I was working a ton, with my business, and I was just taking 10 minutes at lunch and prioritizing a walk or doing some yoga. And it didn't cost me anything, and didn't take a lot of time, and it really made a big difference in my day to help reset. So I think that it's just finding what works for you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you are right in making sure that the audience knows that there's like this smorgasbord of hobbies that are out there, right? And it's finding the time to put that in your life. It's really the perfect starting point, is finding the time for it and then finding what can work in that time frame.
Yeah, I think the biggest key things that we found that work is like when you're first starting out, if you really want to create some time for yourself, is to schedule it, right? Find it, like even if it's 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes once a week, whatever you feel like is feasible, making a realistic goal, not trying to do a crazy large goal to start with, and then just sticking to it. Like write it on your calendar, tell your significant other, this is going to be my time, and make it happen. Yeah.
Do you think that hobbies are... So you talked about how like hobbies are like deeply personal, right? Do you think that deep personalness is the same like 30 years ago as it is today? Does that make sense what I'm asking? Like, do you feel that the drive to stay and like to figure out yourself and who you are is the same now as it was 30 years ago?
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't really like thought about that. Do you have thoughts on this? Or I'm not sure where.
Yeah. So like, he talks.
My initial thought is, I guess, no. We're in a different place now than we used to be. I don't know. Go ahead though.
Well, and like, I'm not even just trying to keep it like just between like us personally, right? I'm just trying to think of like us as a human population, like thinking about 30 years ago, social media wasn't here, right? So like, before, I'm trying to think about 10-year-old Tam, right?
Yeah.
And like what would make me interested and like how I followed my pursuits and how I defined who I was. It was important for me to know who I was, but I also really wanted to like fit in with my peers, right?
Yeah.
And so
depends on your age.
Yeah.
Sure.
And maybe maybe it's just like age, and maybe I shouldn't think of it like the 10-year-old Tam versus 40-year-old Tam, right? Those are two different people. But I, looking now, it's so... I feel like when it was like 10 years ago, it was a little bit easier to just really pick something for who you were and what you wanted.
I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So I think that let's compare a 40-year-old now to a 40-year-old in the 90s.
There you go. Help me there. Yes.
And if I would say that it was a lot easier to do your hobbies, or not even, maybe we didn't even call it hobbies, like just do things for fun, not because you didn't feel judged, you didn't feel like you didn't have all these external pressures like influencing your brain, right? And your like things that you might like. I would imagine it was a lot easier to just go with your internal...
It was just your personal self. You do your work, and then you'd go home, and then you would just do your personal life, and it just was... Like, it was just that's what it was, right? You were just doing what you loved because you loved it.
Yeah, and now there's so much pressure to show it on social media or prove, like, that your time is productive, like, to blast it all over, to share it with your friends, and, like, there's just so much more pressure to do that. to like prove your worth or something.
Well, and even like in the article, it talks about a little bit how like, you know, sometimes hobbies could have like a moment, right?
Yeah.
And so
that's true too,
that moment, like do you jump on that hobby train because it's really like what you're interested in, because you were like, oh, I never thought about that, let me do that? Or is it like a way that you're just trying to connect with your peers?
Right.
So then is it really a personal endeavor, or is it just something to like just stay connected, you know, with those around you? And then when things like that, like when hobbies have their moments, it almost seems like the prices of those goods to do those hobbies go up a little bit or become a little bit more scarce.
Definitely.
I just really thought that was interesting as like a little point that it was kind of noted in there that just really had me kind of reflecting a little bit of like, what was it like to do hobbies 40 years ago versus
that's a good point.
now.
I mean, you didn't have all those influences, so it was probably a lot easier to just follow your intuition, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I know sometimes I feel like I'm the happiest when I'm not on my phone, not connected to computer. I'm just at home alone, like, and just do whatever I want.
Right.
Like, and just, I'm not putting pictures on social media. I'm not looking at social media. Just kind of get in my own headspace. I don't know.
Do you feel like the hobbies are still like bringing you joy whenever you aren't seeing like any influence? Like, because I'm like walking it like most people walk, right?
I
so
definitely.
like, do you still feel like that is a perfect thing for you even when you're not looking at people walking on?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like I've really almost recoiled from social media in a lot of ways. Like, I still get on there and scroll, but I've really recoiled from posting anything, from really trying to not compare myself to other people. I almost wish we didn't have it, right? Yeah. I don't know. But
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that it's just a lot harder now to be your true self when it comes to things you like, you know. Yeah.
Interesting.
To think for yourself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you're finding a way, Erin.
Trying.
You're doing such a good job.
But I think ultimately, like, just the hobbies truly can bring you a sense, like a place to be creative and fun, and it's just a different kind of space in your life that other things like work and family and all that stuff doesn't bring you. It's just time for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that I really take away from the article that I really recommend that our audience listens to is I think it's important to know that maybe we don't need hobbies to be the thing that like gets us, you know, the notoriety that we need, or gets us, you know, the outward validation that we need, right? It's remember that hobbies are very personal and very like there to heal you, and I can speak to that right now. Like right now I feel like my hobbies are very personal to me. Whereas before I don't know that I would have necessarily said that. And I really do feel like they help you just identify who you really are and help you really hone in on what it is that you want out of life versus this outward identity that people probably wouldn't get just by walking up and talking to you, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of in a time where social media and everything is so present and so out there, it's like that one little thing that you get to keep as kind of like your own little secret if you want to. Like, there's nothing wrong with sharing it on social media. I don't want to try to make it sound like I'm like against that. I think there's still a place for that. But, you know, I think it's also like, and also don't forget to enjoy that that's you. That's what you like and what's, you know, brings you joy, and that may not be the same as another person. And I think that that's actually really beautiful. Yeah. That like you get to be unique in your own special way with your own hobbies.
Absolutely. I agree. I think hobbies have never been about the actual hobby, right? It's about yourself. So.
Are you breaking down with me, Erin? You can't go down with me.
No, that was beautiful.
I am so sensitive these days.
It was beautifully said, Tam, and we really hope that our listeners just take away that your hobbies are personal. It's your own personal freedom to find yourself and find joy.
Yes.
Right?
Don't shy from it.
That's right.
They're there for you.
That's right. We love it. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today on The Art of Hobbiness.
Did we even talk about the article?
We did. And you should check it out. We will link it in our episode.
Yes.
So it's a great article.
Yes.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to The Art of Hobbiness. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And for more Erin and Tam fun, be sure to follow us on all socials for behind-the-scenes footage on our journey to find hobbiness.